Welcome all volunteers, members, honored guests, and interested parties to our presentation on Project Excelsior. I would like to start by wishing everyone a happy International Day of Transgender Visibility. This is an annual event occurring on March 31st dedicated to celebrating transgender people and raising awareness of discrimination faced by transgender people worldwide, as well as a celebration of their contributions to society. My name is Melissa Page Kennedy. My pronouns, which I choose to share, are she and her. I will be your host for this presentation. The presentation we are doing here today is an opportunity for our community and interested parties to learn more about this thing that we are doing called Excelsior. I have been a volunteer with Spectrum for over 5 years as the program coordinator and as the facilitator of the Transgender Peer Support Group. I am also a member of the Spectrum Board, grant writing team, provide technology support, and Project Excelsior team oversight. Today, I will be introducing you to our employee team and Project Excelsior. In this presentation, we will talk about what we are doing, who we are doing it with, how it is changing things, what we plan to accomplish, and where this will lead into the future. To start, I would like to introduce our Acting Executive Director, Christy Skelton, who will read the Spectrum Land Acknowledgement.
Hello. So Spectrum acknowledges the truth that we are situated on the Haldeman Tract, which is the traditional land of the Haudenosaunee and Mississauga Anishinaabe nations. We also recognize the Chinontan peoples of what has come to be known as the Neutral Nations, a people entirely eliminated by the colonization of this land. The land on which we meet, live, love, and work is land that was originally shared with open arms by the Indigenous peoples who have always called this place home with the settlers of this region. We recognize that our presence here has disrupted thousands of years of culture and belonging. The very land upon which the Spectrum space exists is at the edge of a great wetland that serves as a hunting ground and overwintering space and is no more than a short distance from villages, feasts and ceremony grounds, and settlements. This territorial acknowledgement alone cannot accomplish justice, and we are committed to working towards reconciliation and ensuring that our programs, services, and practices are culturally relevant and accessible to Indigenous peoples in our community.
Thank you, Christy. What is Project Excelsior? I'm sure you're wondering. I would like to introduce the Honorable Bardish Chagger, who was elected in 2015 as Member of Parliament for Waterloo. When we asked for her bio, her office staff noted that she prefers not to have a lengthy introduction, so I'll attempt to keep this brief. Bardish Chagger is devoted to inclusion and community building and has certainly demonstrated that to us through her work with women and gender equality wage to create the LGBTQ2 Community Capacity Fund, of which Spectrum and the community that we serve are one of its many beneficiaries. It is their efforts that make our work on this project possible, and for that we are grateful. So without further ado, I introduce the Honorable Minister Bardish Chagger.
Thank you so much, Melissa. And one of the reasons I'm not a big fan of the bio being shared is because the work we do as your elected officials really is about you and representing your voices. And that's one of the things that we committed to doing when we took office in 2015 was not only to have Ottawa's voice come to regions like ours, but to have our voices go to Ottawa. And I think that is what is more important. And so that's where I'm looking forward to learning more about Project Excelsior. And I'm looking forward to the work that we are going to do on this together. Christy, I want to say thank you for the land acknowledgement. I think it's really important that we take time to acknowledge the land, because for us to know where we're actually going and have a clear vision, we have to know where we come from. And the reality is that we know a history of our country, but we don't necessarily know the history of our country. And we have a lot of history since Confederation, but we don't talk a lot about pre-Confederation. And I think that's the conversations that we're starting to have. So I really appreciate you taking the time to do that. And today I'm also joined with colleagues Raj Saini, Member of Parliament for Kitchener Centre, as well as Tim Lewis, Member of Parliament for Kitchener-Conestoga. I want to give a special shout out to Tim Lewis because in 2019, Tim Lewis helped us change the game in this region. And all of a sudden, we had 5 federal voices fighting for you. And it was really, really tremendous to have that feeling because, yes, we have done some important work. But when you have everyone on the same page, wanting to learn more, wanting to do more, it is a tremendous opportunity. And when I was named Minister of Diversity and Inclusion in Youth, I really took a moment to recognize that our government takes this work really seriously. A full voice at the cabinet table, making sure that every decision that we take actually takes the voices of the most underserved and underrepresented to consideration. And I think that is not only a symbolic gesture, but I think really true because you see where your tax dollars are also now coming, which is about time. So I'm really pleased to be with everyone here today. And as Melissa acknowledged, on Trans Day of Visibility, no less, to talk about how the LGBTQ2 Community Capacity Fund will be helping Spectrum advance equity for LGBTQ2 individuals right here in the Waterloo region. The current pandemic exposed and amplified many existing inequities and gaps in our social and economic systems, demonstrating that we still have much more work to do. In fact, the COVID-19 pandemic has affected all Canadians and disproportionately certain segments. LGBTQ2 communities are no exception. Right now, many organizations serving LGBTQ2 individuals are strained. And I know that Spectrum, Waterloo Region's first ever LGBTQ rainbow community space, has also felt this strain. It's been difficult to mobilize volunteers. You've been forced to further stretch already thin resources, and you have been limited in the kinds of programming and supports you can deliver. Yet we all know that COVID-19 didn't cause these inequities. It has only made them more apparent. They have always existed, and that is why our government started taking action when we were elected in 2015. Under the leadership of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, our government recognized that it needed to provide support to LGBTQ2 community organizations so that they can strengthen their operations, grow their networks, and build capacity to help advance equity for LGBTQ2 individuals across Canada. And we've taken many steps since then by working with community along the way and responding where possible. In Budget 2019, we had allocated $20 million to establish the first ever federal fund for LGBTQ2 organizations in Canada because you have shared there was no support for capacity. And that's why on February 11th, along with my friend and colleague, the Honorable Miriam Monsef, I was pleased to announce that the federal government of Canada is providing just over $279,000 in support to Spectrum to help sustain and grow this vital community space here in Waterloo Region. The LGBTQ Community Capacity Fund is one of the important ways that we are working to support sexual and gender diverse communities and advance equity for LGBTQ2 individuals from coast to coast to coast. Your work at Spectrum, alongside the daily efforts of many LGBTQ2 organizations across Canada, is crucial to achieving these goals. And I want you to know that your efforts are both noticed and appreciated. In the words of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, we have a choice to make. We can decide to move forward instead of returning to the status quo. We can choose to embrace new solutions to the challenges we face and refuse to be held back by old ways of thinking. So let's do just that. Together, let's keep moving forward by building an even better, safer, and consciously more inclusive Canada for everyone. And I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the great work of the outgoing Executive Director, Jim Parrott. Our community is indebted to your organizing efforts and have made Waterloo the amazing place it is today. And Spectrum is on a great path forward as a result of your leadership. And Jim, you know I adore you. It's not a secret. I've told you from the first time I met you. And I want you to know that I really appreciate the relationship and the friendship that we've built. And I really appreciate that you've allowed me to broaden my horizons and learn because we don't know what we don't know. And the fact that you have shared your stories with yourself and William and so much with me has actually allowed me to be a better representative for communities. And I'm really, really thankful. So as much as you are retiring, and I know you're on to other projects, please know that Bardish Shagar always needs some space in your world. And I need to continue having those conversations so that we can continue building back consciously more inclusive. And I would say as much as the world needs more Canada, Canada needs more Waterloo, Canada also needs more Jim Parrott. So keep well, keep safe. So congratulations on your retirement, Jim. And congratulations to Spectrum for the move into a new and exciting chapter. We look forward to continuing to work together. And just in closing, Riley is here for my team, so please do not hesitate to receive Riley's contact information so you always have a direct channel to my office. And AXA is here from Tim Lewis's team, who also is here to work with you. This is work that our government takes really seriously, and your members of parliament. It's within everything that we do to represent you, and we want to make sure you always have strong voices. So you have direct links to our office. And I also want to acknowledge Councillor Chapman is here with us because I've been able to see that nice smiling face. So thank you so much. Keep well and safe. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Pardish. I don't know how to follow that. That was very amazing. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. So the LGBTQ2, and I noticed that Bardish struggles with that too, so it's a mouthful, Community Capacity Fund. So Project Excelsior is an initiative to strengthen the capacity of Spectrum to advance LGBTQ2+ equality by improving Spectrum board governance, developing a strategic plan, and focusing on sustainability, succession, and financial planning. The project will also increase access to evidence, data, information, and knowledge sources by performing an environmental scan to assess community needs, and will build the capacity by offering skills training as well as sensitivity training opportunities. Project Excelsior is a one-year program to build a stronger organizational platform to enable Spectrum to continue to achieve our vision, our mission, values, and strategic priorities, and better serve our community for years to come. This initiative will help us to improve our diversity, equity, and inclusion, enhance our leadership and people development capacity, improve our financial sustainability, enhance communications and collaboration with the community that we support to meet our mission of an inclusive community where all LGBT Q2 plus individuals are welcomed, celebrated, and supported as their authentic selves. We learned about the WAGE LGBTQ2 Community Capacity Fund in early 2020. Now, after many weeks of hard work, thanks, Jim, in April of 2020, the team submitted a grant application for a program that we would later dub Project Excelsior. And there is a bit of a story behind that name, so reach out to Jim and he'll explain it to you. For the next number of months, we sat on the edge of our seats waiting for the grant adjudication, knowing that there were many worthy organizations applying to this fund. In November 2020, we were advised by WAGE that our application was not only accepted, but we received the full funding requested. We were now in a position to start on this highly transformative project. As you can imagine, we wanted to shout from the rooftops as soon as we heard that we had received this award. However, as we know, there is a process to these things, and we patiently waited. In the meantime, we quietly started work, developing and posting job descriptions, interviewing prospects, having many discussions with candidates, awarding job offers, developing materials to get the team started, and providing them with the necessary tools and orientation. The team was ready to start. On February the 11th, 2021, Minister Chagar, Minister Monsaf, and Parliamentary Secretary Adam von Goverdon announced the almost $15 million fund and the 76 deserving organizations who were given access to this fund. We were now able to do that rooftop shouting and to share our vision, work, team, and progress. We were hiring for 3 different roles to execute on our 4-pillar capacity building strategy. Scott Williams joined as the project coordinator, focusing on governance, strategy, and financial sustainability. Reporting to Scott are Ash Kreider in the role of marketing and development coordinator, focusing on community surveys, brand development, communication standards, the next generation web, social media standards, and community outreach. Also reporting to Scott, Shannon Henderson was hired in the role of Program and Partnership Coordinator to develop our training programs for both internal and external audiences and to improve our methodologies for volunteer recruitment, training, volunteer management, and retention. Together, they formed Team Excelsior, chartered with a one-year project to build Spectrum's capacity and sustainability and transform the organization to be ready for the future. During the employee search for Project Excelsior, and knowing that Jim Parrott, the executive director at the time, was looking to retire, we interviewed a candidate for a new role, assistant executive director, to help Jim and provide backup and support. Thanks to the United Way Waterloo Region Communities funding, we were able to offer Christy Skelton this key operations role. Over the past few months, Christy has more than demonstrated her capability to take on the many things that Jim was handling. Sadly, Jim's health took a bit of a turn and he felt it necessary to step down as executive director. By this point, however, Jim and the rest of the team felt quite confident that Christy, with the support of the board during this transitional phase, could take over in his stead. Spectrum promoted her to the role of acting executive director. Project Excelsior is divided up into 4 key areas that we call pillars and is based on a model of research, development, test, revise, and delivery. The team has been gathering and analyzing data about Spectrum and our community needs, and developing policies, procedures, processes, systems, and assets to meet those needs. We will be testing these deliverables with our various target audiences, be they team, the board, the volunteers, or community, external community. We will revise based on feedback and we will deliver to our target audiences. The end result is a more capable, responsive, and sustainable organization. Christy supports the team by taking the developed works out to these target audiences in the form of operating systems and services. The 4 pillars of this project are: number 1, improve corporate governance and sustainability. Number 2, improve community outreach. Number 3, improve support for volunteers. Number 4, increase financial resources. I will now turn it over to our team members to explain their various areas of focus, starting with Scott Williams.
Hi there. So I'm Scott Williams. My pronouns are he, him. Spectrum has done some incredible work over the last decade, thanks to some very dedicated volunteers and board members. And we're now in a position to build on that work to help the organization evolve. So we're beginning the process of moving from a working board to a governance board. And this involves formalizing many processes and documents and developing new orientation and training packages for board members. It also involves the development of a detailed policy and procedure manual, of which there is now a draft that will be revised and approved over the coming months. We recently engaged in a strategic planning process that has resulted in a new vision, mission, and values, and in 4 new strategic priorities that will guide the organization through 2023. And you can see these now on the About page at ourspectrum.com. Now, in a few minutes, Christy will speak about some of the operational work that has already begun to flow from those priorities. We began the work of improving our community outreach and collaboration as we sought input for the strategic planning process. And Ash is going to speak about this more in a moment. In addition to the policy manual, which will help with institutional memory, we've developed a new corporate archive with G Suite that keeps us more organized by allowing us to store and share documents from a single place.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from Ash Grader, who will discuss their area of responsibility.
Hi, I'm Ash Kreider. I am a trans non-binary person, and as marketing development coordinator, there's been a lot of priorities to focus on. The work that's been completed so far in Q1 has been focused on research, analysis, and strategy. This has been a process made more challenging by the lack of census data available about LGBTQ2+ populations. So as such, we had to pull together all the research that we could find to form a better picture of LGBTQ2+ people in our area. This discovery process was also supported by a number of surveys that we ran in January and February, which included surveys of our volunteers and board, of our community partners, of our program and service users, and a wider community survey of LGBTQ2+ people in Waterloo region, which received 177 responses from people in Waterloo, Kitchener, Cambridge, and surrounding communities. Once this community survey was closed, the results of the survey were thoroughly analyzed and a detailed report was presented to the board in mid-February. That information has since been used to support development of both short and long-term strategy and to start the process of developing programming to fill gaps where needs are not currently being met. In the past month, I have finalized a marketing report and implementation plan, some aspects of which will soon be discussed by the Project Excelsior Steering Committee. I've also completed our new communication strategy that will inform improvements to our online and social media presence that will enable us to better connect with members of our community. As we move forward into Q2, my focus will be on supporting Spectrum's rebranding process and building a new and improved website that will both be more informative and more accessible. I will also be working to develop new content streams and educational resources that will be useful during Pride Month and beyond.
Thank you, Ash. Now Shannon will explain her area of concern.
Hi there, my name is Shannon. My pronouns are she, her. As the Program and Partnership Coordinator, the main goal of my role is to improve support for volunteers as well as our program operations. I started the year by understanding our programs as well as the volunteer landscape, both by attending some of our amazing programming sessions and also interviewing many of our amazing volunteers, from our board of directors to our program facilitators. I reviewed both what is working well and also where we can make improvements in terms of our programming to better meet the supports of our community and to better support our volunteers as well. This research helped to lay the framework to be able to develop new recruitment and retention strategies and setting in place supports to manage and appreciate our volunteers moving forward. I also defined our current and missing programs and their associated volunteer roles, including the knowledge, skills, and abilities required for each position and the training that would then be required based on those knowledge, skills, and abilities. The remainder of the year will include developing volunteer training manuals and programs, proposing and developing online training modules to complement our training program, and then actually training our volunteers in these new practices. A final task will be developing training programs for the community at large to increase our understanding and empathy, to increase their understanding and empathy for the LGBTQ2+ community.
Thank you very much, Ash. Or sorry, thank you very much, Shannon. Oh my goodness, and it's recorded. And finally, Scott will discuss the fourth pillar.
Yes. So a key part of being able to help the organization move to the next level is increasing our revenue sources and levels. So to that end, we've developed a detailed financial sustainability proposal. And this involved an environmental scan of similar LGBTQ2+ organizations across Canada to better understand their funding models and relationships with funders. And we'll next begin work on a plan that will include a more formalized annual fundraising strategy. And you can expect to see some details about that in the coming months. We're also developing an annual plan for grant applications and working to increase our internal capacity for grant writing with training. We'll explore various social enterprise opportunities and new partnerships and collaborations with local and province-wide organizations. And all of this is being done in order to increase our capacity to offer the programs, services, and resources that LGBTQ2+ people across Waterloo Region have told us are needed. So I'm really pleased with the quality of the work that our team has done so far, and I'm excited to be able to share more and more of it with the community over the course of this year. Now, Melissa is going to speak a little bit more about where we're headed.
Okay. So what we have done so far. What I put together, or in the next few slides, we'll be talking about sort of more of a summation of some key things that we accomplished, which have been touched upon in presenting what these 4 different pillars are. In addition to that, we'll talk about where we're heading down the road. And also Christy will speak to things that she's working on from an operational standpoint. So in Q1, the team has, in effect, developed a first revision of governance documents and extensive policies and procedures that are now in the process of being evaluated by the board. Developed a new strategic plan with vision, mission, and values and strategic priorities that you can read on our website about page, as Scott has already mentioned. Started the development of a financial sustainability proposal, which we're currently working on. And just a point of note, we have already submitted 7 grant applications worth a total of over $150,000 in potential funding towards things like transgender, gender-based violence initiatives, youth and trans youth programming, mental health funding, and general operations, to name a few. And with our newfound capacity plan, we will submit many more. Performed a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threat analysis in aid of development of strategy, policies, procedures, processes, systems, and fundraising ideation. Published and evaluated 4 different surveys that will help inform our process. Developed a number of training procedures that will help create a much stronger body of knowledge for recruitment, development, and retention of volunteers. Developed a marketing plan as well as a communication strategy that is being evaluated by the larger team. And as mentioned, developed a new G Suite based corporate archive with a stronger organizing paradigm and migrated corporate archives to its new home. And now I will introduce Christy Skelton as our acting executive director to talk about her areas of responsibility from the operations standpoint.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us here today and for your interest in Spectrum. My name is Christy, as Melissa has said. My pronouns are she, her, and I have them on the screen there for reference for later if you want to contact me. Currently, I am the acting ED here at Spectrum. I began work in January at the same time as the Project Excelsior team, though my position sits outside of the project team and differs from theirs as I am the only staff member who is operations focused. As many of you know, executive directors of nonprofits wear many hats, even in acting roles, and so I just want to touch on a couple of things that we've been working on. Since work began in January, I've begun building relationships with community and funding partners in Waterloo Region through interviews, community committee work, and roundtable discussions. I have an active role as the organization's volunteer coordinator, working closely with Shannon, who is building smart recruitment and retention practices. And we believe these practices will assist in maintaining a positive and supportive organizational culture within Spectrum. I have begun to plan an extended along with other folks on the team, have begun to plan an extended schedule of Pride 2021 events, some in partnership with other community organizations. So there's more coming on that. Please stay tuned for Pride 2021. Additionally, I've been able to work with the board of directors and closely with Scott as they have adopted new policy, new organizational structure, and moved to the development of their new 3-year strategic plan, including the vision, mission, and set of values. The new values include a dedication to equity, diversity, and inclusion. This value will inform how we function internally, in program and policy development, in recruiting processes, and in examining unconscious bias. We have taken steps to set up an equity, diversity, and inclusion committee, and we're working towards hiring consultants to assist in internal review and sensitivity training opportunities. So this is very important work, and I'm very excited to get going on it. We have a lot to do. Of course, there's much more going on that I have time to talk about here. But since it has only been 3 months since this capacity building project has begun, the amount of work that the team has accomplished is admirable. I'm very pleased as well as Scott is with the amount of work the team is doing and the quality of the work. And I cannot wait to see how things roll in the future. I would be very pleased if anybody wanted to reach out to me and continue talking about Spectrum's future, where we're going, and some of our operations. Reach out to me at any point.
Okay, thank you very much, Christy. So we've coined this term Spectrum 2.0 because the changes that we're making are very, very transformational. We are taking an organization that was predominantly doing things on a voluntary basis. And we all know, I mean, our volunteers work very hard, but that makes it a little bit tougher to do the large amount of works that we have been doing in a predictable and timely way. So all of the changes that are happening in 2021 are the precursor to this thing that we've dubbed Spectrum 2.0, which is a reimagined version of Spectrum with a more professional polish and better position to serve our community in the future. Yeah, it's a way of sort of setting a tone and a vision for where we're taking the organization. So 2022 and beyond, in summary and in short, based on the work that we were doing in 2021, we'll have a solid governance that will guide and enable us to tackle bigger and more innovative programs and projects and services. We will move forward with a clear vision, mission, values, and strategy. We will have stable, consistent operations supported by stronger financial footing. We will have strong brand awareness and recognition, increasing our visibility, credibility, reach, and capacity to serve. We will have increased our tool set, allowing us to improve our volunteer bench strength through better recruitment, training, volunteer appreciation, and retention, allowing us to serve a greater number of community members. So that, in effect, is the end of our presentation. We wanted to share, since we'd already made a tremendous amount of progress, and I am extremely proud. Like when Jim and I sat down to try and envision what this should be, I think we both had ideas of what we thought we could accomplish. And we brought on a team that has more than exceeded our expectations. And I am totally thrilled with all of the high quality work that the team is doing. I think that they've been absolutely amazing. And I'm really excited, looking forward to what we're going to get done this year, and then how that will operate as a springboard to allow us to do many, many great things for this wonderful community that we live in the years ahead. So with that, I bring the formal presentation to a close so I can stop talking like a robot, reading a script, and open the floor to questions. So I guess to start with, Christy or Scott, do we have any questions in the chat that people have asked?
I'm not seeing any yet, just lots of congratulations, which are very appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, very much appreciated.
Jim has a question.
Okay, certainly. Jim.
It's more a comment. Many people may not, in fact, understand why we were so desperate and so thrilled when we saw that this project, that the funding was available. What happened is we started 8.5 years ago, and we had one suggestion after another for projects to take on, and we had to put them on the back burner one after the other. By the time we reached 2020, the back burner was overflowing. It felt to me like some of us were treading water. We couldn't get anywhere. And so when we saw that this grant opportunity was available, we were thrilled. That's all I want to say. It just came at a really good time. I'm absolutely thrilled with what the new team is doing. I'm thrilled with what Christy's doing. That's all I wanted to say. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
And
I see.
Councillor Chapman has a
Yeah.
question.
Thank you. I don't have a question either. It was more a comment. So congratulations. I think this is a wonderful, grant and opportunity for Spectrum to grow the work it already does. And it sounds like you've got an impressive group of people and a plan and pillars that you're working through. So I'm sure it will bring great things. So congratulations. And I feel honored to be here for this presentation. And thank you to Bardish and team for making this happen. So thank you.
Thank you for joining us today.
Yes. Bardish.
British, yeah.
I'm going to ask a question just because I like to push, and part of the opportunity we have right now is to push to do even more and even better. So the intersectionality bit is really real, and we've seen that the pandemic has definitely exposed many of the inequalities and inequities that exist within our society. So would love to know how we bring about better representation. What work are you already doing in that space, or is there plans for it? And even when it comes to First Nations and Indigenous communities, bringing those perspectives and teachings perhaps into the work that we're doing. We'd just love to learn a bit more. If there's not an answer, that's cool, but just to put it out there.
There is a little bit. I can speak to it a tiny bit. We're working towards this. So the EDI committee has their first meeting on Sunday. That's a new development. So we're excited to move forward with that. But in advance of that, I had already been working on a couple of things. And one of them was we had proposed to have some consultants to come in to look at processes, policies, programming, and make sure that we didn't have any biases or any barriers for folks to come into the organization. And in discussing the types of consultants we wanted, we thought we didn't have the experience at the table to really understand what those could potentially be. So we did a little subset, which was we are going to be hiring one Indigenous person as an advisor and one Black person as an advisor to come in to help us even write that RFP, to really understand what the needs will be there and to understand how we could potentially not create unintentional barriers. And so we're working through that right now in bringing some of those folks on to help us make the first step to make the big next step, if that makes sense. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
And I think someone said, Kate, you have a question? Yeah.
It's really just what I just said in the chat. I just wanted to acknowledge the role that the Enchanté Network played in bringing this grant opportunity to our attention, because they were the people who brought it to our attention in the first place. And I'm really glad they did.
Thank you.
And thank you for that, Kate, for sitting on that committee and supporting us that way.
There is a question in the chat from Charlie. This is maybe for Ash. Could you speak to the survey some more? As an academic, I'm always eager to hear what research is happening in the region. And will these reports be made public?
Yeah, the way that we conducted the survey, we wanted to get as many responses as possible. And we did want to be aware of the fact that with some of the questions we were asking were extremely personal and about very identifiable information. So the way that we put out the call for the surveys, we did say that we were going to keep that information confidential. So the detailed report was presented to the board, but the results of this particular survey are being kept internal to Spectrum just because of the way that we worded our call to action for this survey. However, one of the recommendations that was made to the board and something we're extremely interested in following up on is doing additional surveys because as I mentioned, in my time, the lack of census data makes it really difficult to understand the needs of our community. There's never been a census question about non-binary people, for example. So yeah, it is something that we're definitely interested in pursuing further and something that needs study, but unfortunately, for outside purposes, the results of this particular study are not going to be published.
So I just have one follow-up question, if that's okay. Is that there's been like other research and needs assessments done in the region. So I'm wondering if you're going to be utilizing any of the research that's already been conducted from like a community-wide level.
Absolutely. The first month entirely of my position was just gathering all the data I could find, like the Outlook study and all of the studies that have been done in our region, and as well as research that's been done in Ontario, and also whatever data, we could find federally. My internet locked up.
Mhm.
Oops. Yes, and we've also used a lot of the Outlook information to help us in grant applications, which has been great. So yeah, we're looking forward to seeing what's next from that study.
Yeah, one of the things that we added to our sort of operating guideline is to do more surveys on an ongoing basis to kind of test the community so we can stay more in tune with what the community wants and needs from us. So this is the beginnings of that process. And Ash, did you want to say something before you locked up there?
I think Scott probably covered what I was going to say. I'm going to guess that he was going to finish that thought. I'll just add that we are going to be doing one more survey as part of this project, something we're calling an ally survey, to kind of get information about the perceptions of LGBTQ2+ people in our community. And hopefully that's something that we'll be able to share the results of more widely. So yeah, stay tuned for that.
And Minister Lewis has a question.
It's just Tim, but I appreciate that. Thank you, Scott, for the promotion. Congratulations. Thank you to everyone. And this is a great informative session. I appreciate that. One of the things that you're so good at as an organization is outreach and getting out into our communities and meeting people and helping advocate. During the pandemic, we all were locked down, and you did such an amazing job with your online presence. I followed many of the events you did online. I mean, it's never as good as being there in person, but I was very proud of that work you've done. Now that we're coming close to getting out there and seeing each other in person, what are your plans to continue that online presence that you've kind of already developed? Because I think the potential there to reach even more people beyond our community is so inspiring. So I want to know if you have plans to do that. And thank you.
Yeah, I can certainly speak to that one. So as part of the project that we're working on this year, one of the things that we recognized very early was like we ramped up our online program, as you noted, very quickly. We kind of fumbled through March of 2020, but by April, we seemed to be able to stabilize our sea legs. And from that point, we moved forward, and we had pretty much every single program that we were running physically running online. There were a few that we couldn't do because they absolutely required physical presence, but we did our best to run everything that we were doing. And we did have a few that fell off due to lack of attendance. The forum wasn't right or something like that, but it was a learning process for us. But the other thing that we started to learn, and I got more direct experience through facilitating and running the transgender peer support programs, was the number of people who were being invited in. In fact, it was kind of funny, like we would get these emails saying, is it okay if I invite my friend from, wherever, Kentucky or South Carolina or whatever. And we suddenly started having people joining our online support meetings from places, other areas of Ontario, other areas of Canada, other areas of North America. And that kind of sparked an idea within the group that once we do get back into the physical space, we need to keep that capacity going, because we recognized even when we were, back in the before times when we were having physical meetings, that we had some people who couldn't make it for reasons such as they couldn't get their car started, or there was too much ice on the road, or whatever. It just made it difficult. you know, for them, or they were afraid to drive in the snow or whatever. But had there been a capacity available to log in online, they probably would have attended, and they probably would have gotten the help and support that they were looking for. So we realized that this is an important adjunct to the services that we provide anyway, and we've learned how to do the Zoom meetings very, very well. So we decided to build into one of our budgets equipment that we're going to install into our space that will allow us to actually broadcast the in-person meetings to anybody who wants to attend from outside. And that can be anybody at all, like not just people within our region, but anybody, you know, in our community that feels that they would like to, you know, hold space with us and, you know, share with the groups that we currently have. So yeah, long answer, but yes, we are building on what we learned and bringing that into our physical space, for sure.
And there's a question from Nancy at United Way in the chat. Beyond additional funding, what can we as other local organizations do to support your work?
Okay, who wants to take that one? I can start and then you guys can add if you wish.
Sure.
So as a part of what we've been doing, we have been having meetings with a lot of community partners already. And I think part of that is just reaching out and getting to know each other. We're evolving into a completely new capacity as an organization. And I feel like, so for example, I attended a gender violence group that was held by the YWCA down in Cambridge. And I know that Cambridge has been reaching out to us for a variety of things, one of them being that they really, really want to start a transgender support group down there. And so my attending this gender violence meeting basically has led to a discussion starting on how we might make that possible. Now, originally when I got these requests, I said, well, our, you know, like our meetings are open to anybody in the community. What I found over and over again was, for some reason, the 401 is just this insurmountable boundary for some people. So that said, we recognized a need that needs fulfilling. And so we're working towards, with another organization in the community, establishing a support group in Cambridge. And that could lead to other types of support groups as well, where if they can provide us with space, we can provide them with support in making these meetings happen. So this is a total trade on you know, people and resources that we already have. So that would be one example of how we can work together on solving a problem that has been identified to us within the community. So I'll leave it to others to throw stuff out there.
I would say another one is what you've already done. You've given us so much of your time by joining us here today and by meeting with Christy and I a couple of weeks ago. So we really appreciate you taking the time to learn more about what we're doing and what the issues are. So, and other folks here, I see, you know, our friends from the Community Foundation and Hospice, and probably others that I'm not seeing, but thank you all for joining us and being willing to listen and understand and be partners.
Yes, and to include us in events like this that you guys have, so that we can get to know you all better as well. Yes, absolutely.
And Jim, did you want to mention? Yeah. Oh, you're muted.
Okay. I just wanted to amplify something that Melissa had said. We learned a really big lesson doing Zoom. I mean, Melissa didn't say it, but at the beginning, we had some very hair-raising experiences. We got Zoom bombed like you would not believe at the beginning. It was just scary. So we learned to put in protocols in place that actually worked for us. But what we learned from it, as Melissa has mentioned, is we had people joining from way outside Waterloo region. We have one person join from Fredericton, New Brunswick. She's now moved into the area, but it's been very, very exciting. And it's really critical for the following reason. And this is something not everyone understands. Waterloo region stands out as a kind of beacon in southwestern Ontario. There are very few supports. For example, in London right now, they had a lovely organization that collapsed 15 years ago. Hamilton has been struggling for the last 5 years. So being able to reach out to people through Zoom is a really big deal. It means that we can share what we're doing. So thank you so much, Melissa. Melissa's the brains behind doing all this tech. I can't do techie stuff to save my life, but Melissa is incredible. We're going to have big screens up in Spectrum and do what we call mixed mode presentations for the program. We're going to be doing that for all the programs. So it's a big deal. A lot of communities in southwestern Ontario have suffered in the last 20 years. As I said, London collapsed, Hamilton is barely there, and Guelph has been somewhat weakened as well. We're offering an array of online services that rivals what is happening in Toronto. So yeah, that's it. I'll unmute myself. I think I can figure out how to do this. Just a moment. There we are.
And Kate, I see you have a question, but just before that, I see Jim mentioned in the chat that we're joined by Janet Egan from Wage.
Yes.
And thank you for being here. And thanks so much for your support on all of the administration of this grant.
Yes. Yes, thank you.
Since I was called out, I guess I'll speak. I'm not used to being on these events, but it's been a pleasure, and it has such a feeling of family and working together. And I love to hear how everything's progressing and to see what we discussed and put on paper coming to life. And just thank you so much for including me.
Yes, and thank you so much for getting us started. Yeah, because there was a lot of work at the beginning, working with your team, and yeah, that very, very appreciated. Thank you very much. And I noticed that Nancy had...
I think, sorry, Melissa, to cut you. I think Kate has been waiting.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Kate, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to add something to what Nancy was asking. One of the things that our partners in the community can do, and this is people in all kinds of places, is look for places where we're not, right? You need to look around and see the places where queer people are not. So if we're not in your spaces, in the spaces you're attending, the committees you're going to and things like that, please let us know and we'll see what we can do about trying to find somebody who can sit on that committee.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I did see that Nancy had her hand up, but I see it's down, so I'm not sure if Nancy has a question or a comment.
I was actually just clapping, but thank you, Melissa.
Okay.
It looks very similar on screen, I know.
It does, it does. Yeah, okay. Are there any further questions, comments?
Just a quick comment that Scott put his email and my email in the chat. So if you do want to reach out to us, you can just copy and paste our emails and reach out at any time.
Absolutely. All right. Well, this has been fun. Thank you all very much. So we, as Scott said earlier, appreciate all of you attending and listening to us report in on what we've been doing in the first quarter on this amazing project, this amazing transformational project. And with that, I would like to thank all the people on the team as well who have worked so hard to make this the great success that it is becoming and will continue to be. And with that, I think we're done. So thank you all very much, and we wish you a happy long weekend, however you celebrate it.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.